That was cool. It's probably pretty obvious that this guitar is inspired by the Chris Cornell Gibson 335 signature model. The only thing missing up to this point was the filtertron pickups. Now, even though the headstock says Gibson, this guitar started out as an Epiphone with a totally different color, headstock, and clear coat. I stripped all the polyurethane off of it and finished it in this olive drab nitrocellulose. Now, there were a ton of other changes, but instead of going into all that right now, I'm going to point you to a playlist that I put together. You can get to it by clicking in the link in the upper part of the screen or in the description down below. There are about 15 videos right now, and I'm continuing to add to the list. Essentially, the guitar is already done, but I'm going back now and putting together these videos essentially to document each step of the process. So contrary to what it might seem, I'm actually not a diehard Chris Cornell fan. I do love his voice and the music of Soundgarden and Audioslave. I mean, I was in high school in the 90s, so grunge is sort of the sound of my youth. And of course, Soundgarden is one of the OGs of the grunge movement. But no, what drew me to this guitar was threefold. First of all, the unique color. Second of all, I did not own a 335 style guitar. Third, I did not own a Filtertron equipped guitar either. So needless to say, this guitar scratched a lot of itches for me and sort of justified all the effort it took to make it happen. Alright, let's talk pickups. So the Chris Cornell model came with Lollartrons, which are essentially a humbucker-sized filtertron. And that's what I was originally going to go with, except that they're so darn expensive. I think as of the making of this video, they run about $400 plus $30 extra for the aged nickel covers that I would need. Now I happened to come across a 20% off coupon at Chicago Music Exchange, which is one of the few places that actually carry the Lollartron pickups. And so I was about this close from pulling the trigger. However, I started looking around at more budget-friendly options and I came across the Magneto Design Lab Elec'tron pickup, which is also a humbucker-sized filtertron. Now I first heard about these pickups in Upe guitars, I think they're called, out of Japan. They were standard in their Trailbreaker models. Now since then, I think they've gone to a more traditional humbucker pickup, and I believe the brand they go with now is Euphorial or something like that. But anyway, that's how I first heard about the Magneto Electron pickups. So I reached out to Magneto Design Lab and said, hey, I'm a small YouTube channel, but I'd love to try out your Electron pickups and do a video on them. And Lee over there said, hey, we'll give you the artist discount, and here we are. And I thought it was kind of cool that they're out of North Carolina, which is where I'm originally from. So what we're going to do is unbox the Electron pickups, install them in the guitar, which normally is quite a headache with a 335 style guitar, but I found a better way, which you'll see. And then we're going to compare them to the original Epiphone humbucker pickups. Now, of course, this isn't going to be a one-to-one comparison because I don't have any other Filtertrons to compare these to, but at least we'll get an idea of the differences between the two styles of pickups. I've actually done the recording already and listened back, and there definitely is a difference. As you'd expect, the Filtertrons are a little bit brighter, have maybe less low mids, and probably sit better in a mix, which is likely why they're so popular in worship music, for example, where you have a lot of instruments like drums, keys, bass, acoustic, and maybe even a second electric guitar. Speaking of which, of course I had to play some Soundgarden riffs, but I also chose some classic worship songs that I associate with Filtertrons. And I will say that every part I play in these sound comparisons was originally recorded, as far as I know, on a Filtertron pickup. You can play them on a humbucker, but they just sound right on a Filtertron. Alright, this is the Magneto Electron or Filtertron pickup in a humbucker size. Let's open it up. Now I will say I have already opened this package. I put it back together just because I was so impressed with the packaging. There's nothing fancy, but it's just really well done. Everything's symmetrical. For someone with OCD, it's really satisfying to see. We got a little nice emblem there on the top for Magneto. And then we have the little thank you card inside, which is nice. Okay, so in the box we have, let's open it up here. Again, nice packaging, very thoughtful, symmetrical, well laid out. And of course, here we have our pickups. Take this out carefully. All right, so here's the back. Got the braided pushback wiring, long screws, springs. Put that down here. And then our card, we have the Electron bridge with an output of, let me get closer here, 5.4K on the bridge output and 4.43K on the neck pickup. So not much else to see here. Again, just very thoughtful packaging, the way it was done. I'm just impressed by this for some reason. But I need to, of course, take these off. Now, dealing with these springs and the screws is always kind of a pain in the behind. But Phil McKnight, thanks to him, I have an idea with alligator clips to hold them in place while you install them. So I'm going to utilize that tool as I put them in the guitar and mess around with them, but for now, that's about it. I'm going to get the guitar and we will start installing the pickups. And here we go, closer look at these. It has the serial number. Let me get it in focus here. So it has the serial number, and I think that's an N for neck on this one. And this guy is, yes, serial number and B for bridge. Can I just say, very nice presentation, again, with the logo on the fiberboard and the embossing, I guess that's what you call it. But again, it just looks really nice, very professional. So I just need to remember that the neck is blue and the bridge is red. That makes sense because the bridge is hotter, so red. So as long as I remember that, I should be in good shape. Oh yes, and I should point out, if it's not already obvious enough, that these are a, aged cover. This is nickel, and I forget what the exact finish is, if it's just a raw nickel or aged or something like that, but they're obviously not nice and shiny, brand new looking, which is what of course I wanted and I asked for. But it's very well done. It's not overdone. You don't have any kind of like corrosive screws or anything, but they're not shiny. It just looks really naturally aged, and I think it's going to fit really well with the motif of the guitar. In order to access the location I need to get to, the first thing I need to do is take the pickguard off. Well, I gotta find that screw. Now I haven't made a video yet about how I rewired this guitar, but to let the cat out of the bag, I utilized a Mojotone solderless wiring kit for a 335 style guitar. So everything came pre-soldered. I had to feed it into the guitar, raise it up, all that. But I'm going to show you this. There's a pigtail in here, and essentially you are able to pull this out and undo the wires for these existing pickups, put the new ones in, feed the wires, put them all into the little harness, put it back in, and then you're done. It should be that easy. But the one thing I do know is that I will not have to remove everything from the guitar, which can be a nightmare for these semi-hollow guitars. So thankfully I will avoid that. And as long as I can fish this pigtail out, we should be in business. Sorry, my head's gonna be in the way, but that's just how it's gonna be for a moment. Okay, here we go. I've been able to fish it out. And yeah. So what we have is the bridge pickup with the B on there, the neck pickup, and everything else accordingly. So I'm going to put maybe a towel down here to protect the finish of the guitar, and we can undo these tiny little screws and get these pickups detached and start on the new pickups. Okay, there we go. So because I want to use the same strings as I did for the sound clips for the humbucker pickups, I need to remove them but save them somehow. So what I believe I'm going to do is take a capo like so, put it somewhere over here on the neck of the guitar, and then detune, or vice versa, and take these off of the Bigsby and then try to just set them aside. So like I said, I can reuse them later. Okay, I've got the strings off. Didn't really go the way I planned with the capo, but at least I can sort of trap them here and keep them to the side like so, as long as I can figure out where to put them. Okay, that's fine. All right, now to take these guys out. Here we go. Now I did measure the pickup height before I took the strings off so that when I put the Filtertrons in, I can put them back to that height and we'll have an apples to apples comparison. But for now, let's try to remove these pickups. That came out pretty easily. And just in case you're interested, these are the original Epiphone pickups. Sorry, I know you can't see that very well. Whatever that is, I'll have to look up the specs on the 335 figure top and see what these are. And there's that one, which is the, I think that N maybe means neck, I don't know. This one has a B, a BB. This one has a BN, so for what it's worth. I've taken the liberty of removing the pickups from the pickup rings. Here are the springs for the screws. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm probably going to reuse these springs because the other ones, let me just grab those and show you the comparison. So these are the magneto screws and springs. You can see here that the springs are very, they run the length of the screw. So they're pretty long, longer than these over here, and they're tinier. So I think these are going to be easier to work with. Just comparing the pickup height, the springs were compressed quite a bit. And so I also feel like, and I think these springs are kind of stiff. So I don't know that they're going to compress as easily as I want them to. Sorry for the focus. They will get pretty tight in there, but these will do the job as well. And I think they're just going to be, like I said, easier to work with. So the plan is to use the springs from the humbucker pickups. We'll see how that goes. Okay, here we have the bridge pickup, and I believe the wire needs to go down at the bottom end of, so it would be closest to the cavity where all the wires run. So I believe it's oriented this way. Of course, the ring, the fatter part goes down towards the bridge. So it's going to go on like that. And of course, I need to try to get the screws and the springs in. Now, the cool thing about the springs that came with the Epiphone pickups, and this is a Gibson pickup ring. Let me grab one. The spring actually fits down on this little, I don't know, nub right there. So you can do that. And the spring is like there, and you don't have to mess with it at all. It's not really even a factor when it does that. Now the neck pickup ring does not have room for that. So there's not like a nub. You can see where they, machined it and probably just cut it off or didn't have room. But that doesn't have the benefit, but at least the bridge pickup does. And so I think I'm gonna just utilize that little nub and make it easier for myself. Okay, I've got the springs on the pickup ring. Here is the pickup itself. So it's going to go like this. Now I know doing this over the guitar is not the greatest idea, not ideal, but it's just how I have the camera set up. So it's going to have to work. Hopefully I don't lose a screw inside the guitar, because that would suck. But we're going to try this. All right, we have threading. That's great. Let's try the other side. Perfect. Wow, that worked like a charm. I'm glad. It could have been a lot worse. Okay, that's more or less how it's going to go. So one thing I need to do is to prep this wire. So I'm going to put the pickup right here on my protective towel there. What I need to do is pick apart this grounding or shielding wire that surrounds the cloth. So this should push back like so. And I need to get it. So that this part of the wire right here is one part that needs to go into this harness, and then the grounding is the actual shield on the outside, and that is another part. So I'm gonna have to pick this apart with, I've got this little tiny screwdriver, so hopefully it works. This is the way the Mojo Tone guy did it. He just kind of picked apart all the wires until he got as much as he needed, like so. Still feel like I need some more. This is like the tiniest screwdriver I have. Maybe I should get like a nail or something. Okay, here's a nail. I don't know if it's gonna be any better. It seems to be. All right, I think this is gonna be enough. Just gonna grab all these and twist. So there's that one, and that one. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that should be good. I will spare you me doing this for the other pickup, but it's going to be the same method. So I was able to get the screws into the pickup on the neck pickup pretty easily as well. And again, I think it just comes down to these kind of shorter springs and then being large enough to not want to compress and shoot out and just be really annoying. The ones again for the magneto electrons, they work, but I prefer these, and that's why I used them. The other thing you could do is take a small alligator clip and sort of compress the spring, clip it on the screw, and that will hold it back. And then you can just work with getting the screw into the threads versus having to deal with the spring because it's kind of out of the way. Again, I learned that from Phil McKnight, and he has a video on it, but that's kind of the way you do it. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that with these, but that is helpful if you need it. All right, I'm going to feed the pickups through. This is the neck pickup, and I'm going to feed it through this little cavity here, which you cannot see, but it goes from there into here and over there. The length of these wires is pretty great. It's not too long, not too short, so I don't think I'm gonna have an issue with trying to cut them, which is good because I already made this little preparation end here. So I'm going to feed this through. Hopefully it doesn't get caught on anything. Okay, that's good so far. Just going to go in here like that. Then this guy is going to go in here. I just need to be able to grab it to get it connected. Wow, that worked out pretty well. So I'm going to pull this through. Got plenty there. Now for the bridge pickup, it's going to go like that. Feed it through as well. And wow, this is going really well. It's going perfectly, which I don't know if that's a good thing, but I'll take it. All right, so the way this works is there's some numbering systems on here, or there is a numbering system. You can't see it, but there's a B for bridge ground. There's a 1 for the bridge hot, a G for the bridge ground, a 2 for the neck, and a G for the neck ground. So I'm going to, put these in the appropriate spots and screw down the screw, little set screw there, and we should have a good connection and be good to go. Okay, we're good. So now I'm going to take this to an amplifier or bring one out here and make sure everything's working properly. Like I said before, I put it all back together. Okay, I did bring an amplifier out here just to test this out. Got it plugged in over here. You can barely see it, but this is the, let's see, gotta do the bridge first. That's good. Middle, neck, make sure. Good. Okay, now just to make sure, bridge volume. That's good. Tone. That's good. Neck volume. That's good. Tone. Perfect. All right. I probably need to put it back together and then test it one more time just to make sure nothing's grounding out and that it's in the proper position. So I will do that. We'll put everything back together, pick guard, strings, all that, and we should be good to go. Okay, everything is back in the guitar. Let me test this again. Good. All right, so everything should be fine. Now there's a little bit of a wire visible through there, but when I put the pick guard on, it is not visible any longer. So that's fine as long as it's not visible in the F-hole. When everything is, put together as it should be, then we're good. Pretty happy with this. Now I gotta put everything, like I said, back together properly, tighten it all up. Then we will do some sound comparisons. I need to interrupt here. So as I was editing the video, I realized that after I had already installed the pickups and recorded the guitar, that I accidentally installed the neck pickup in the wrong orientation. And by wrong, I just mean not the optimal position. So what happened is I received these pickups months ago, but I'm just now getting around to installing them. Shortly after the pickups arrived, I got an email from Magneto Design Lab saying that they were slammed the day my pickups went out, and just in case they forgot, they were including a PDF of the installation guide. Of course, by the time I got around to installing the pickups, I forgot that I had that guide in my email. Now I don't blame Magneto at all. They could have just not sent a follow-up email, so I totally take the blame. It is my fault. Anyway, once I realized this, I reached out to Lee at Magneto asking if it was going to have a big impact on the tone. What he told me is that it wouldn't affect the phase or anything, but that they optimized materials in the pickups to balance out the strings. So in his words, they use certain materials to tame the bass wound strings and to lift the treble unwound strings, which I think is pretty cool that they pay that much attention to detail for the sake of tone. So the majority of what I recorded was actually on the bridge pickup, but there were a handful of things played either in the middle position or on the neck pickup. Now I think it still sounded great, but just take those clips with a grain of salt, knowing that it could have sounded even better or at least a little more balanced. Alright, so what did you think? Please leave a comment down below and let me know. I love these pickups. They have the classic Filtertron sound that I hear in my head, and I would highly recommend them. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video, share it somewhere, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.